Come, come, listen, listen, everybody. Just for you I have a story. Sometimes nice and sometimes scary. Sometimes nice and sometimes scary. Just for you I have a story. Come, 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 come. Namaste and welcome everyone to this story from me, Deepa Kiran. It is Navratri time. We are listening to a lot of stories about the Devis, about the Dashavataras, and I am reminded of a favorite story of one of my favorite listeners called Devansh. He loved stories of the vahanas. Yes, the vehicles of the gods. And one of his favorites was a creature that flew. Also, which flew super fast. You guessed it right. It was Garuda, the eagle. That's the story I present to you today. To know the story of Garuda, we go way back in time. To the time when Brahma, the creator, made all of creation. You must agree that it is quite a big, humongous task, isn't it? And so, of course, it was delegated. One of his sons, sage Kashyapa, had the duty of bringing forth the animal kingdom, the Pashus. And it came forth in a very interesting manner with the many wives. And each had a category of the animal kingdom. For example, Timmi was the mother of all creatures that could swim. Kadru gave birth to all the creepy crawlies. Yes. Then was Vinata, whose children could fly. We also had Surabhi, who birthed the animals with hooves. Those animals which had paws came from Sharama. And lastly, Surasa was the one who was the mother of all different kinds of animals. Thus came forth the various creatures. One day, sage Kashyapa asked Kadru and Vinata about the children they would like to have. They were both sisters, daughters of Raja Daksha. Kadru promptly said, I would like to have 100 sons. And so be it, said sage Kashyapa, giving her 100 eggs which hatched very soon. And out came the sarpas, the serpents, the nagas, 100 snake sons Kadru had, and she was very proud. I am the mother of 100 snakes. Meanwhile, the other sister Vinata had asked for just 2. I would like to have 2 children, strong and intelligent, she insisted. So be it, said sage Kashyapa. And there she had 2 eggs and waited for them to hatch. Meanwhile, Kadru and Vinata got into an altercation one day. Kadru was already full of herself. Oh, my eggs have hatched and I have 100 sons and I am of course the best and I am correct. And one day she told Vinata that, oh, that Uchchaishrava horse of course has a black tail. Then Vinata said, it is white, everybody knows it. No, it's black. Let's have a bet tomorrow, and if you lose it, you will be my slave. If I lose it, I will become your slave. And Kadru went back very haughtily to realize she was wrong. Uchchaishrava, the celestial horse, indeed had a white tail. Now what to do? She instructed her 100 sons, the dark Nagas, to go and sit all over the horse's tail the next morning when both were going to have the bet. So when they stepped out with those 100 snakes around, Uchchaishrava, the celestial horse's tail, of course looked black in color. See, I am right and you have to be my slave, Kadru said. Vinita was in absolute shock. But she became the slave, of course. Here she was a slave, and there the 2 eggs had not hatched. This made Vinita very upset. Why is this so, Lord? Why am I being tested like this? She wondered. And after a while, her wonderment turned into irritation, into frustration. What is going on? What is going on? And why are these eggs not hatching, and pachak? In her impatience, without realizing, she broke open one egg and out came a creature, the first born of Vinita's, which was not even fully formed. This child was so upset with the mother. It said, Mama, how could you do this and not wait? I am not even formed properly. And this creature left to join the sun god. Today, we know it as Aruni, the god of dawn. Having learned her lesson well, what do you think Vinita did with the second egg? Quietly she waited. She mustered all the patience that she could and waited for this egg to hatch. And hatch it did. Into a resplendent boy with the eagle face and the eagle wings, Garuda, her second child. She was so happy. Together they lived. However, soon Garuda discovered that all was not fine. He and his mother were slaves of his aunt and his cousins, of Kadru and of the snakes. I have to free my mother and myself from this slavery, thought Garuda. He went to his cousins and said, what will it take to get liberation for me and my mother? Simply get us the potion of immortality, Amrita, and your mother will be liberated, so will you. And so Garuda set off to get Amrita, which was of course no easy task because this was protected by the Devas themselves. Strongly fortified with 4 layers. First the Devas and then a spherical curtains of fire followed by weapons and finally a snake right over 2 of them. Now Garuda went and before anyone knew, shak, 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 with his strength and intellect had straight away got all the Devas out of the way. Next was a sphere made of curtains of blazing fire. Garuda went to the water bodies, the rivers and the lakes and the ponds and sucked up all of the water. He doused the entire fire. Next were these circular rings of weapons of different shapes and sizes and hooks and all of it which was impossible to penetrate. What did Garuda do? He meditated, thought for a while, and then became super small in size. This tiny little Garuda, fast as fast could be, made his way through the hooks and the spikes of these fast moving weapons, and in he was, where the 2 snakes guarded the pot of nectar. He took each one with his claws, took the pot of nectar with his beak and flew away. as the gods watched in desperation. Indra, they called out to their king, do something, Indra. Ta dhitta kanakajam tarikidataga, dhitta kanakajam tarikidataga, ta dhim, chunu tarikidataga thom. Indra went and stopped Garuda right in his tracks and said, hold on, young man. You cannot be leaving with the nectar. I need it, my devas need it. But I need my liberation, and I will have to hand it over to my brothers, the 100 serpents. You do understand what a nuisance that is going to be if they become immortal, don't you? Well, I do. The best I can promise is that I will hand it over, because that is how my mother will be liberated. But I will also ensure that you get back the pot of nectar. Wondered Indra, and followed Garuda along. Garuda went to his 100 brothers, the serpents, who were right there on the grass. He placed this pot of Amritam. Eagerly, they all came right up to it when he said, I have a suggestion, brothers. Why don't you all take bath and then partake of this potion of immortality in a more auspicious manner? That's a sound suggestion indeed. And so they all crept away. And as they were going, Garuda reconfirmed. And so, my mother and I are liberated, right? Absolutely. And the snakes headed for the water. Meanwhile, he hinted to Indra, who quickly came, swooped with the kalash of Amritam, the potion of immortality, and left. The snakes came just in time to see what was happening and said, hey, oh my God. They looked at Garuda and said, why didn't you stop him? And Garuda asked with all earnestness, was I supposed to stop him? I thought I'm not your slave anymore. Indeed, they realized Garuda was right. He wasn't their slave anymore. It was not his duty to protect that pot any longer. And so they conceded. But they found a few drops of Amritam that had fallen as Indra left. The snakes rolled themselves on those few drops, they say, and that is why the snakes shed their skin and get anew themselves. They get to renew in a certain way, even though they didn't get the immortality. With this, the snakes returned and Garuda was liberated. He had liberated his mother. As he was going back, Lord Vishnu stopped him to ask a question that was bursting inside. Garuda, you had the pot of immortality in your beak. You could have sipped from it and become immortal yourself. Why did you not? Without a second thought, Garuda replied, it was not mine to partake. I was carrying it just to liberate my mother. Vishnu was so impressed that he offered a boon to Garuda. And as part of that, Garuda got to become Vishnu's vaahana. But his desire was also that I am below you. I would like to also be above you. Vishnu thought for a while, how could that be? But finally, he made it happen. The Dwaja, the flag above Vishnu, carries the image of Garuda at all times. And so, below Vishnu as his vaahana and above him as the emblem on the Dwaja, Garuda travels with Vishnu. Garuda, the eagle, the symbol of strength and wisdom. Garuda is glorified in the Mahavishnu Stotram as, O Vishnu, the God who travels on Garuda. Garuda Gamanatava by Swami Bharati Tirtha. Garuda Gamana Tava Charana Kamala Miha Manasila Satu Mama Nityam. Garuda Gamana Tava Charana Kamala Miha Manasila Satu Mama Nityam. मनसि लसतु मम नित्यं ममता मम पाकुरुदेव ममता मम पाकुरुदेव जलजनयन विधिनमुचिहरण मुख विभुत विनुत पद पद्मा जलजनयन विधिनमुचिहरण मुख विभुत विनुत पद पद्मा विभुत विनुत पद पद्मा ममता मम पाकुरुदेव मम पाकुरुदेव भुजगशयन भव मदन जनक मम जनन मरण भयहारी भुजगशयन भव मदन जनक मम जनन मरण भयहारी जनन मरण भयहारी ममता मम पाकुरुदेव मम पाकुरुदेव शङ्खचक्रधर दुष्टदैत्यहर सर्वलोकशरणा शङ्खचक्रधर दुष्टदैत्यहर सर्वलोकशरणा सर्वलोकशरणा ममता मम पाकुरुदेव मम पाकुरुदेव अगणित गुणगण असरण शरणद विदलित सुररिपुजाला अगणित गुणगण असरण शरणद विदलित सुररिपुजाला विदलित सुररिपुजाला ममता मम पाकुरुदेव मम पाकुरुदेव भक्तवर्यमिह भूरि करुणया पाहि भारतीतीर्थं भक्तवर्यमिह भूरि करुणया पाहि भारतीतीर्थं पाहि भारतीतीर्थं ममता मम पाकुरुदेव मम पाकुरुदेव नमस्ते।